The office was too quiet. In architecture, quiet is a bad sign. It means the builders have stopped. It means the money has dried up. I had spent 10 years at this firm. I designed the steel skeleton of the Vantage Tower. I lived for blueprints and structural integrity, but at 1:55 p.m., I felt a crack in the foundation. The email was simple. Meeting, conference room A 2 p.m. The subject line was a single word, discussion. I walked down the glass hallway. The firm looked beautiful, all white marble and minimalist desks. I entered room A. Senior Vice President Sterling was already there. He did not look up from his phone. He was wearing a suit that cost more than my first car. And then, I heard it, click, click. He was fiddling with the clasp on his heavy gold Rolex. It was a Submariner, solid gold. It looked heavy on his thin wrist. He finally looked at me. His eyes were like two pieces of flint. "Elena, sit," he said. He did not use a chair. He sat on the edge of the mahogany table. It was a power move. He wanted to look down at me. Human Resources sat in the corner, a woman named Sarah. She would not look at me. She was staring at a blue folder on the table. "We are making some changes, Elena," Sterling said. Click. He adjusted the watch again. "The merger with the Delta Group is finalized. We have to trim the fat." I felt a cold shiver. I was not fat. I was the senior project lead. "Your role is being eliminated," he continued. He did not sound sad. He sounded like he was reading a grocery list. Sterling slid the blue folder toward me. He used one finger, like the paper was infected. "There is a severance package inside. It is very generous." I opened the folder. 12 weeks of pay. A year of health insurance. It looked good. Too good. Then I saw the 3 pages at the back. The non-disparagement agreement. It was a trap. It was a gag order. It said I could never speak about the firm's safety logs. Specifically, the logs for the Vantage Tower project. I knew about the structural shortcuts Sterling had ordered. He knew I knew. This was not a severance package. It was hush money. I looked at Sterling. He was checking his Rolex. "You have 24 hours to sign, Elena. Sign it, and you leave a hero." If I signed, I would be complicit. I did not reach for a pen. I reached into my leather portfolio. I pulled out a document I had signed 10 years ago, my original contract. I laid it on top of his blue folder. "Section 7.3, I said. My voice was calm, steady. "I am not signing your folder, Sterling." Sterling's face went white. The clicking of the watch stopped. The room went dead silent. Sterling looked at my old contract. It was yellowed at the edges. He did not touch it. He looked at it like it was a bug on his expensive table. "Section 7.3, he muttered. Click, click. The Rolex sounded like a slow heartbeat in the dead silence. Sarah from Human Resources was sweating. I could see small beads on her upper lip. "That is an old document, Elena," Sterling said. He leaned in closer. I could smell his expensive coffee and peppermint. "The firm has grown since then. We have new standards. We have expectations." I did not blink. In architecture, if the foundation is weak, the building falls. My contract was my foundation. "My rights do not have an expiration date," I said. I pointed to the blue folder. "This is not a severance package." "It is a chain," Sterling laughed. It was a dry, rattling sound. "It is 12 weeks of pay, Elena. Think about your mortgage. Think about your career." He was threatening me. He was not even trying to hide it anymore. The silence clause was 3 pages of legal barbed wire. It said I could not talk about the Vantage Tower project. It said I could not mention the adjustments to the steel orders. Sterling had saved the firm millions by using lower-grade beams. I had the logs. He knew I had the logs. "I am thinking about my career," I said. "That is why I will not sign a lie." Sterling stood up. His shadow fell across the blueprints on the wall. "You are being emotional," he said. "Architects should be logical. Take the folder. Go home. You have until tomorrow." He walked to the glass window. He looked out at the city he was building with hollow steel. I picked up my leather portfolio. I did not take the blue folder. I left it sitting on the mahogany. It looked small on that big, empty table. As I walked out, I heard it one more time. Click. I walked through the office. The young designers were hunched over their screens. They did not look up. They did not know the building was already on fire. I felt a weight in my chest. 10 years of my life was in this room. The models, the sketches, the late-night coffee cups. I walked to my desk. I did not grab my coat. I did not grab my bag. I just sat down and opened my design software. I had to move fast. I sat at my workstation. The screen glowed with the blueprints of the Vantage Tower. It was my masterpiece. It was also a crime scene. I reached into my top drawer. I grabbed my favorite red pen. I did not use it to mark up a drawing. I just gripped it until my knuckles went white. I needed to move fast. Sterling would not wait for his 24-hour deadline. He was a man who cheated on safety logs. He would not play fair with a clock. I opened the hidden directory on the firm's server. The folder was labeled Structural Revisions. It should have been labeled The Truth. I saw the files. The original steel specs versus the cheap ones Sterling ordered. Millions of dollars saved. Thousands of lives at risk. I started the transfer to my private cloud. 10%. 20%. My heart was thudding against my ribs. Every footstep in the hallway sounded like a firing squad. I looked at the red pen on my desk. In this office, a red pen means a change. It means a correction. Tonight, it meant war. Suddenly, the screen flickered. A red box appeared in the center of my monitor. Access D and IED. My stomach dropped. I tried to refresh the page. The status was disabled. Sterling was already in the system. He was not waiting until tomorrow. He was erasing me in real time. I tried my email. Nothing. I tried the internal chat. Nothing. I was a ghost in my own building. I looked at the young designer next to me. Is the server down? I asked. My voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. He did not look up. Seems fine to me, Alina, he said. He was still clicking away. The system was fine. I was the only one who was unplugged. I stood up. I did not take my designer lamp. I did not take my awards. I just took my leather portfolio and my red pen. I walked toward the elevator. I could see Sterling through the glass of his office. He was standing by his window. He was looking at his Rolex. Click. He knew. He saw me walking out. He did not wave. He did not smile. He just watched me like a hunter watching a wounded deer. I hit the button for the lobby. The doors slid shut. I was out. I felt the cold city air hit my face. It felt clean. The office felt like a tomb. I walked to my car and sat in the dark. I reached into my bag and felt the drive. The transfer had reached 60% before the screen went dark. It was not everything, but it was enough. It was enough to start a fire. I looked at my phone, a text from Sterling. The offer is now 6 weeks. Every hour you wait, the number drops. I did not reply. I just started the engine. Sterling thought he was counting down my money. He did not realize I was counting down his career. I drove home in the dark. The city lights looked like a cold blur through my windshield. My truck was freezing. The heater was dead, just like my career. I sat in my driveway for 10 minutes. I stared at my front door. For 10 years, that firm paid for my life. Now I was a ghost. I reached for my phone. I tried to open the company application. Account disabled. The words were white on a black screen. They looked like a tombstone. Sterling did not wait for his 24-hour deadline. He did not even wait for 3. He was a coward, a man who used a gold Rolex to hide a hollow chest. I went inside. I did not turn on the lights. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. I did not try the firm's portal. I knew it was a digital wall. I went straight to my personal email. I had carbon copied myself on every major thread for months. I was not being paranoid. I was being an architect. I was making sure the foundation was solid before the storm hit. I saw an email from system admin at 5:15 p.m. Security credentials revoked for Alina Vance. They were erasing me. They were scrubbing my name from the projects I had built. I felt a strange calm. When people panic, they make mistakes. Sterling was panicking. He wanted me blind before I could find the rest of the safety logs. He wanted me gone before the quarterly board meeting. I opened a new document. I started a log. 5:15 p.m., remote access pulled before the 24-hour deadline. 6 p.m., internal chat access restricted. I was building a paper trail of their bad faith. In the legal world, bad faith is a poison. If they want to fire me for cause, they have to follow the rules. They were breaking every single one. I looked at the clock on my wall. It was nearly midnight. I thought about the Vantage Tower site. Right now, the night crews were pouring concrete. They were trusting my designs. They did not know the steel holding up their feet was garbage. Sterling was probably asleep in a silk sheet bed. He probably thought he had one. He did not know I was still awake. He did not know I was just getting started. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. I had saved it a long time ago. A man named O'Brien. He was a solicitor who specialized in difficult departures. He was known for being a bulldog in the courtroom. The phone rang 3 times. "Alina?" he asked. His voice was raspy, like he had been waiting for the call. "It happened," I said. "They locked me out early." There was a pause on the other end. "Did you sign the folder?" O'Brien asked. "No," I said. "I walked out." "Good," he replied. "Then tomorrow, we go to war." I hung up the phone. I looked out the window at the empty street. I was not Alina the architect anymore. I was Alina the problem. I sat at my kitchen table for 3 hours. The only light in the room came from my laptop screen. I was looking at the 60%. The files I managed to pull before Sterling cut my digital throat. It was enough to make my blood run cold. Invoice number 408. Grade B steel ordered for the main support columns. Grade A steel was what the blueprints required. Sterling had authorized the swap to save $2 million on the Vantage Tower. He was building a tomb in the middle of the city. He was betting that the building would not settle for 50 years. He was betting with other people's lives. I felt a wave of pure nausea. I had dedicated 10 years to a firm that was now a hollow shell, just like their buildings. Then, my phone buzzed on the wood table. Buzz, buzz, the screen lit up. Unknown number. I knew it was him. I did not answer. A text message followed seconds later. Elena, I know you took the files, it read. That is company property. That is a felony. I did not type a word. I just hit the buttons to take a screenshot. Click, the flash on the screen felt like a small victory. Another text came through immediately. The 6-week offer is gone. You are getting 0. Sign the gag order by 8 a.m. or we file a police report. He was desperate. He was using a personal line to bypass the company's legal logging system. He was acting like a thug, not a senior vice president. I imagined him sitting in his high-rise apartment. I could almost hear the sound of his Rolex clicking in the silence. Click, click. He was probably checking the time every 30 seconds. He was probably wondering if I had already called the building inspectors. I had not. Not yet. I was following the rules. I was waiting for O'Brien. I sent the screenshots to my solicitor's private email. Add this to the harassment file, I wrote. O'Brien replied within a minute. Do not engage. Let him dig his own grave. I closed my laptop. I walked to the window and looked at the city skyline. The Vantage Tower was visible in the distance. It was covered in scaffolding, a giant skeleton waiting for its skin. It looked beautiful and terrifying. Sterling thought he was counting down my bank account. He did not realize I was counting down the structural integrity of his entire life. Tomorrow was Friday, the day of the next phase. I did not know what that meant, but I knew one thing. I was not going to be the one who cracked. I went to bed, but I did not sleep. I just watched the red numbers on my alarm clock, waiting for the sun to come up, waiting for the war to get loud. Friday morning arrived with a heavy knock on my front door. It was not the polite tap of a neighbor. It was a sharp, aggressive bang that made the glass rattle in the frame. I looked through the security camera on my phone. 2 men in black suits were standing on my porch. They were not wearing firm identification. They looked like they belonged in a boxing ring, not an architecture studio. One of them was holding a heavy plastic bin. The other was holding a tablet and looking at my windows. My heart started to race. Thud, thud, thud. I opened the door just a crack. The cold morning air rushed in. Can I help you? I asked. My voice was thin, but I did not let it shake. Elena Vance, the tall one asked. He did not wait for me to answer. We are here to recover company property, laptop, tablets, design drives. I have a 24-hour deadline, I said. Deadline was moved up, the man replied. He stepped closer, invading my space. Sterling wants the gear now, or we call the police. The police? Over a 4-year-old laptop? This was not about the hardware. They wanted the structural revisions folder. They wanted to make sure the evidence of the cheap steel was back in their hands. Wait here, I said. I went into my kitchen. I grabbed my work bag and my tablet. I did not grab the backup drive. That was still hidden in the freezer. Tucked behind a bag of frozen corn, I walked back to the porch and dropped the laptop into their plastic bin. Clatter. The sound felt like the end of my life. The man checked a list on his tablet. Where is the external drive? He asked. His eyes were like cold glass. I do not have one, I lied. My pulse was screaming in my ears. He stared at me for 5 long seconds. He looked over my shoulder into my house. Then he turned around without saying a word. They walked back to their black SUV and drove away. I stood on the porch until their tail lights disappeared. I felt a flash of pure shame. My neighbors were watching. They saw the architect of the year getting shaken down in her pajamas. I went back inside and checked my email one last time. Subject, termination for cause. The notification said my status was now execution. Effective immediately. Your employment is terminated for theft and gross misconduct. Theft. I had built their reputation for 10 years. I looked at the clock. It was exactly 8 a.m. Sterling did not just fire me. He tried to murder my reputation. I went to the freezer and pulled out the frozen corn. The drive was cold in my hand. Sterling thought he had taken my gear. He had actually just pulled the pin on a grenade. Saturday morning was too quiet. The city was waking up, but my world had stopped. I sat on my porch and watched the mail truck crawl down the street. Then came the knock. It was not the heavy thud of the security goons from Friday. This was a sharp, polite tap. I opened the door to a courier in a yellow vest. He handed me a thick white envelope. "Sign here, please," he said. I signed. He left. I did not open it on the porch. I went back to the kitchen table. I used my favorite steak knife to slit the top of the envelope. The letterhead was gold embossed. Sterling's name was at the very top. Notice of termination for gross misconduct. Gross misconduct. I read the list of my supposed sins. Item 1, unauthorized access to sensitive company data. Item 2, insubordination during a formal architectural review. Item 3, theft of company time. They claimed I had spent my final week sabotaging the Vantage Tower logs. It was a lie. A pure, calculated lie. By firing me for cause, they did not have to pay a single cent. No 12 weeks. No 6 weeks. Nothing. I felt a coldness settle in my stomach. This was not just a firing, it was an execution. They wanted to make sure I could not even get unemployment. They wanted to starve me out. I grabbed the letter and the backup drive from the freezer. I drove to O'Brien's office in the city. His office was small, it smelled like old paper and cheap tobacco. O'Brien put on his glasses. He read the letter twice. He did not look angry, he looked happy. "They did it," he whispered. "They did what?" I asked. "They skipped section 14.1, he said. He tapped the letter with a yellowed fingernail. "In this country, you cannot fire someone for cause without a formal hearing. You need a witness, you need an investigation, and you need to give the architect a chance to defend their designs." Sterling had not done any of that. He was too busy checking his Rolex to follow the law. "So what now?" I asked. O'Brien leaned back. The chair let out a long, high-pitched screech. "Now, we file a complaint with the Workplace Relations Commission. We are not just going for the 12 weeks, Alina. We are going for the jugular." He pulled out a stack of forms. "By Monday morning, Sterling Steel invoices will be public record." I looked at the gold embossed letter. It was supposed to be my end. Instead, it was the map to their destruction. "How long will it take?" I asked. O'Brien smiled. It was the smile of a shark. "The legal system is slow, Alina. It might take 3 years. But every day they fight us, the interest on your payout grows. Sterling thinks he saved the firm money. He actually just signed a blank check with his own blood." I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I was not a ghost anymore. I was a predator. O'Brien's office was not made of glass and steel. It was tucked away in a basement off a side street. The walls were lined with sagging bookshelves. The air smelled like old paper and stale coffee. It was the opposite of my firm's minimalist aesthetic. And for the first time in 3 days, I felt safe. O'Brien was a small man with a sharp nose and eyes that never stopped moving. He did not check a Rolex. He did not even have a clock on the wall. "Show me the drive, Alina," he said. His voice was a low rasp. I plugged the drive into his battered laptop. I opened the folder labeled Vantage Tower Supplier Audit. O'Brien leaned in. He did not look at the blueprints. He looked at the numbers. "Grade B steel. Price matched for grade A," he whispered. "And here, signed by Sterling, this is not just a labor dispute. This is criminal." I felt a cold sweat on my neck. "Can we win?" I asked. O'Brien looked at me over his spectacles. "Win, Alina, we are going to burn his house down. He fired you for cause to keep this drive out of the courtroom. He wanted you to be too broke to hire me. But he forgot that I hate bullies more than I like money." I looked at the screen. The red markings I had made with my digital pen looked like blood. "He sent goons to my house, O'Brien," I said. "He threatened me with a felony." O'Brien smiled. It was a slow, jagged smile. "Let him," he said. "Every threat is another zero on your settlement check. Every time he clicks that watch, he is counting down his own ruin." We spent 4 hours filling out the Workplace Relations Commission forms. We attached the screenshots of the midnight texts. We attached my original contract. Section 7.3 was our shield. The steel invoices were our sword. "Now we wait," O'Brien said. He leaned back. His chair let out a long, high-pitched screech. "They have 14 days to respond. Sterling will try to buy you off. He will offer the 12 weeks again. He might even offer 20. "What do I do?" I asked. O'Brien looked me right in the eye. "You do nothing. You do not answer the phone. You do not reply to the texts. You let the silence eat him alive." I walked out of the basement and into the sun. I did not feel like a ghost anymore. I felt like an architect, and I was designing a trap. The hearing room was small. It was not a grand boardroom with mahogany tables. It was a sterile office with flickering fluorescent lights. The floor was old linoleum, cracked and stained. There was no gold leaf here. Sterling looked out of place in his $3,000 suit. He sat across from me. His heavy gold Rolex caught the light every time he moved. Click, He was fiddling with the clasp again. He looked bored, like he was waiting for a private jet that was running late. The adjudicator was a woman named Miller. She did not wear a robe. She just wore a sharp gray blazer and a look of pure exhaustion. She had seen 1,000 Sterlings, and she had seen 1,000 architects like me. "Mr. Sterling," she said. Her voice was like sandpaper. "Explain the for cause termination." Sterling stood up. He did not look at me. He looked at the ceiling like he was reciting a prayer to the gods of profit. "Elena Vance was a liability," Sterling said. "She accessed restricted design files. She attempted to blackmail the firm with proprietary data. We had no choice but to protect the shareholders." Lie. Every word was a calculated stone thrown at my 10-year career. O'Brien did not move. He did not even take notes. He just waited for the silence to get uncomfortable. Then, he stood up. "Mr. Sterling," O'Brien began, "you mentioned a supplier audit folder." Sterling stiffened. His hand went straight to his wrist. "That is proprietary information," Sterling snapped. "Is it?" O'Brien asked. He slid a single sheet of paper across the table. It was the invoice for the Grade B steel, the one Sterling had signed in blue ink. "Is it proprietary, or is it evidence?" The room went ice cold. Sterling's face turned from a dusty red to a sickly gray. "That is irrelevant to the termination," Sterling shouted. Adjudicator Miller leaned forward. "Actually, I will decide what is relevant," she said. She looked at the invoice. Then she looked at Sterling's gold watch. "Mr. Sterling, where is the record of the disciplinary hearing?" Sterling blinked. We had a meeting with Human Resources," he stammered. "No," Miller said. "A formal hearing with a witness. Under Section 14.1 of your own company handbook." Sterling looked at Sarah from Human Resources. She was busy studying the floor. She was not going to jump on this grenade for him. "We did not think it was necessary given the theft," Sterling muttered. "Then you did not follow the rules," Miller replied. She shut her laptop with a sharp snap. The sound echoed in the small room. Sterling looked at his Rolex. He checked the time, but for the first time. He looked like he was running out of it. I looked at him. I did not feel angry anymore. I felt pity. He thought his title made him invincible. He thought his money made him right. He forgot that in a room this small, only the facts fit. "We are done for today," Miller said. "I will have my ruling within 30 days. Sterling practically bolted for the door. He did not look back. O'Brien packed his briefcase. "How did it go?" I asked. O'Brien smiled. "Elena, did you see his hands?" The truth was shaking right in front of us. The nightmare is almost over. 30 days felt like 30 years. I sat on my porch every morning. I watched the mail truck crawl down the street. I did not look for the black SUV anymore. The security goons were gone. Sterling's budget for private spies must have dried up. Then, it arrived. A plain white envelope from the commission. No gold foil, no fancy letterhead, just the truth inside. I opened it with a kitchen knife. The ruling was 40 pages long. I skipped to the last page. The respondent failed to follow statutory procedures. The termination was conducted in bad faith. I felt a chill run down my spine. The adjudicator ordered the firm to pay my full 12 weeks, plus 8 weeks of penalty pay for the breach, plus my legal costs. The total was over $45,000, but that was not the best part. The best part was the recommendation section at the end. The adjudicator noted the irregularities in the steel logs. She recommended a full independent audit of the Vantage Tower project. I called O'Brien. "We won," I said. My voice was a whisper. "We did not just win, Elena," O'Brien replied. "We scorched the earth." 2 weeks later, I drove past the firm one last time. I did not stop. I just slowed down. I saw a black town car idling at the main entrance. 2 men in suits were walking SVP Sterling to the curb. He was not carrying a blue folder. He was carrying a cardboard box. His expensive silver pen was sticking out of his pocket, and his Rolex, he was not clicking it. He was staring at it like it was a bomb. He looked old. He looked small. He looked like a man who had finally run out of time. The board had seen the audit. They had seen the structural revisions. Sterling was not just fired. He was erased. I accelerated away from the office. The smell of dust and concrete followed me for a mile. Then it faded. I reached into my pocket and felt my phone buzz. A notification from my bank. Deposit confirmed. The money was there, every cent. I thought about Section 7.3. I thought about the silence clause they tried to choke me with. They wanted to buy my soul for 12 weeks of pay. Instead, they paid me 20 weeks to watch them collapse. I rolled down my window. The air was clean. The war was over. And the best part? I never had to say a single word. The contract did all the talking.